TTD just reported their Q2 2022 results and the stock is up about 35%. This seems like an overreaction, but this is caused by two reasons. First reason is they have met the both revenue as well as earnings per share estimates in a challenging environment. And number two is the CPI report is out and it is showing that the inflation is trending downwards. In Q2 of 2022, they made about $377 million of revenue, which represents 35% year-on-year growth. And for the next quarter, they're saying that they can achieve about 28% growth and they will probably exceed it. At current stock price of $74, their market cap is about $32 billion. And if you look into the past 12 months, they only made about $1.2 billion of revenue. So that's a price to sales of about 30. And to give you an example of how ridiculous this is, let's say you have a friend who owns a business that makes about $1 million of revenue. You are buying it with $30 million. First of all, this $1 million that your friend is making is the sales, right? So he has to pay his employees and pay for the costs and other rents. So he'll make a profit of about maybe $300,000. So for a company that is making $300,000 of profit, you are paying $30 million and buying it. When will you make your money back? It'll take 100 years for you to get your money back. Doesn't it sound ridiculous that you have to wait 100 years to get your money back? That's what you're doing with TTD when you buy it at $74. Okay, now you can say that, okay, this is a growth company, so growth doesn't come cheap, right? So let's look at its evaluation 5 years out. Maybe they are not making too much profit now. Maybe 5 years out, they have to make more profit, right? Because you have to make your money back when you pay for a stock. So let's look at their evaluation in 2026. That's 5 years out. In 2021, they made about $1.2 billion of revenue, right? So for the next 5 years, I have to come up with a revenue projection of how much they are going to grow their revenue, right? So in the previous quarter, they grew about 43%. This quarter, 35%. And in the next quarter, they're saying they can grow about 28%, right? So overall, I'm going to assume a 35% year-on-year growth for the next 5 years. It is difficult as the company grows bigger. It's hard to grow, but I'm still going to assume a 35% revenue growth just to show how optimistic this target is. So if I assume 35% year-on-year growth for the next 5 years, they will make about $5.5 billion of revenue in 2026. So from 1.2 billion to 5.5 billion in 5 years out. With respect to net profit margins, I'm going to assume 30% net profit margin for this company, which is on par with the likes of Google, Facebook, etc., which are very quality companies, right? So if I assume 30% net profit margin, they will make about $1.6 billion of net income in 2026. With respect to multiple, we have to look at its growth rate and net profit margin. So this company is growing at about 35%, right? That's what we have assumed, and net profit margin of 30%. So I'm going to assume a multiple of 30. Typically this gets something between 25 to 27.5, but I'm going to give 30 multiple. So if I give a 30 multiple for this, this company would be worth about $48 billion in 2026. Currently they have about 500 million shares, so that converts to about $97 of stock price in 2026, assuming that there will not be any dilution. Remember, TTD has a lot of stock-based compensation, right? But I'm not considering that stock-based compensation. And still, with very, very optimistic projections, the stock would be about $97 in 2026. So currently it's at $74, right? So that's less than 30% gain in 5 years with extremely optimistic projections. So what are we doing when we buy the stock at $74? Unless you're a trader or unless you're somebody who is looking for momentum play, this doesn't make sense at all. Personally, with realistic assumptions, I'm coming up with about $84 price target for this company in 2026. So I need at least 2x in 5 years. So for that, the stock has to fall below $42 for me to get in. So I'm not going to play in this FOMO game. I'm going to get into this stock only if it falls below $42.